Hello, everybody. I am the Worm. Welcome back to Raging Loop. Last time, well, what I thought was going to become a sort of triumphant moment actually became a bit of a horrifying one. Haruaki did indeed come up with a plan and was able to turn the tables on the wolves, but his following suggestion on how to deal with them afterward kind of left us in a bit of well, a mood. uh, it was a lot, really. I was stunned for a bit after I heard it, and obviously that didn't sit well with everyone else, including the wolves themselves. And our one of our wolves, Chiemi, took it upon herself to commit suicide rather than go along with Haruaki's suggestion, so to speak. And she claimed that she was more afraid of Haruaki than she was of, well, what would it be? The corruption or Shinai-sama or God? I can't remember what she said, but I think she's understandably afraid of Haruaki, considering while Rokaka was definitely an important part of the victory here, Haruaki-san was, the one who was the central to the whole project here. And that, of course, is no surprise considering he's a dang looper. Of course he's going to be one step ahead of everyone. In any case, we're now dealing with the aftermath. And before moving on, I just wanted to talk about an idea that Lise brought up in the comments last time, and it was such a good idea. And I just never considered it. Last time I made a comment, and I think the time before I made a similar one. But the idea was, if I can illustrate my point here, we saw that when we went from one main route to the next main route, that the roles were given to different people. Now we only have two main routes thus far. I'm predicting there's going to be a third, but we'll have to wait and see. So the thought was, and we got it confirmed last episode, that Haruaki has been going through bad ends off screen. Like we don't get to see necessarily all the different attempts that he has at this. And so my idea was, well, hang on, how does that make sense? Wouldn't the roles get randomized each time? And I think part of my thinking on that was actually being influenced by, if you're watching these as they're being uploaded, I'm doing two Let's Plays at once. And there's another game that it's not exactly the same thing. It's not exactly Wolf or Werewolf or Mafia, but it's a similar enough thing. And I think you know what I'm talking about if I'm referring to that and the randomization, right? So I think I just for some reason had that assumption that the roles should be randomized. But Lise had a very good idea that let's call this this whole feast situation that we're in. Let's say there's some sort of overarching authority over this situation, okay? Now we don't know exactly what this authority is. But let's just call it Shinai-sama for now. It could be supernatural, it could be human, it could be both, it could be, it could be whatever. This authority, the one that starts this authority would be the one that starts this whole feast. And as part of that, they're the ones that decide the roles that are given. So, what if this authority does not deal out the rules randomly? What if there is a kind of methodology or logic to who gets what role? And so we don't know what that is yet. If there is one, again, this is just going along this one theory. If there is a certain logic or methodology to the deciding of the roles, then if Haruaki were to enter the same route, that is, start the feast with the same people in the same situations, or similar enough situations, then if this governing authority, Shinai-sama, is following the same methodology, then by that, the same people should be picked for the same roles each time we start. So that would answer my question as to how come it's not random each time. How is he able to do this? So that is to say, if he starts the route by, going through Kamafujiyoshi and then having the it's been so long, what's his name, the heavyset photographer, if he's dead, and so it starts with just Haruaki and Mamiya being the extra two, if that's how the situation starts, then by whatever methodology is choosing the roles, it always ends up being Chiemi, Mamiya, and Mochi as the wolves, and Haruaki getting the snake. And I think they get my point. I hope I explained that clearly enough. But essentially, that would answer why it doesn't get randomized each time. So I do like that idea, and I think that means I'm going to be on the lookout for. Again, I think there's going to be another main route, and if there is, I'm going to be on the lookout for who gets what role next time. I think that'll be important to keep a watch for, as trying to understand what this methodology might be, because I'm not really sure right now. Again, this is just we don't have anything confirming this, but it would seem to explain why the roles don't change, even if Haruaki is restarting multiple times. Okay, I think I got that across. I hope I didn't repeat myself too much. In any case, let's deal with this aftermath. Again, due to my prediction that there's going to be another route, I'm thinking it's not going to end here. I don't know what's going to cause us to have to revert, but I guess we'll find out. Okay. We then went on to clean up Kaori-san's body. After spacing out a bit, we all cut up some veggies and ate them uncooked. It was hard to make a fire in the mist. And as people of Fujiyoshi, no one felt like using fires other than the one in the watering hole. And everyone was averse to using the dining hall, because of Kaori-san, yes. Thus, everyone went to sleep. No. For the first time since the feast began, none of us could sleep. Morning came without us getting any rest. Oh my goodness. I can hear wildlife. So much green. The sky so blue. And the mist was gone. No one had died, of course. Everything was as the legend said. With the Yamatsu Okami gone, peace came back to the human village. However, it was hard to celebrate it. Yudai Hashimoto, that's the name. Yudai Hashimoto, Tai Yamawaki, Hisako Mamiya, Haru Makishima, the old man who cried wolf, Kaori Oribe, Chikamochi Kamoshida, and Chiemi Sarazawa. A whole 8 people died. Even if 2 of them were outsiders, the settlement had suffered great losses. Everyone had an aversion to using fire to dispose of any remaining objects that carried signs of murder, so it was decided that they would be buried. The tatami, the floorboards, the futon, all of it. We also ended up making new gravestones for those we had lost. Rokako-san had told us that the graveyard near the hanging pine was full of the feast's victims. So, there was nothing under the stones.
それじゃあ、今はお亡くなりに？
はい。大往生でした。
Was this a conversation about Gen-san? Huh. Those who died normally would be burned at the crematorium in Kamafujiyoshi, run by the Higuchi, then buried here. Those who didn't would be thrown into Saranaga and simply vanish. Making sure no one saw me, I went down to Saranaga. There was nothing. No corpses or belongings. Just like last time, Saranaga was just a thin, shallow stream. However, I did find one thing. Aha! It was a pendant with the Yamatsu Okami symbol on it. This thing. What was this? Was someone wearing it? What did it mean for someone in Fujiyoshi to wear something like this? At this point, I didn't feel like investigating it anymore. Was that strange? No. I felt like that was just how things were. Days passed of us working on this and that. We somehow survived thanks to the food from the fields. And right as we were finishing up our work, help finally arrived. Are we going to see Higuchi again? Kamafujiyoshi sent some people to remove the landslide blocking the road, and now they'd finally made it.
大丈夫でしたか、皆さん?
This guy right here, man. It'd been a while since I saw Shoji Higuchi. He looked as friendly as always.
庄司、どうして今まで？
我々としても作業は進めたかったんだが、どうにも。不可解な事故が多発してね、霧が晴れてからようやく進めたのさ。それで、皆さんご無事で？
No one answered. Higuchi-san began looking sympathetic and started giving some orders to his people. Eventually, we were brought to Kamafujiyoshi and were made to spend a few days like refugees in some community center. Apparently, this was temporary. The village heads said they needed time to clean up Yasumizu after the disaster. Oh, there's something fishy going on. I really appreciated the 3 daily meals they gave us from the nearby watering hole, and sleeping in a place without any mist at all was pleasant. The food was strangely fancy, and the people bringing it seemed somewhat humble. They'd always looked down on the people of Yasumizu, but now that we'd stopped the Yomi invasion, they actually revered us. That was just a guess, though, and I was still locked up in here with nothing to do. Well, surely you could hang out with Rokako, maybe. One day, I actually got to see the officer. It actually felt kind of nostalgic at this point.
おお、生きとったか。何よりだ。これ、お前のだろ。邪魔くさいからとっとと引き取らんか。
My bike. The weeks of exposure to the elements had left it looking really shabby. I had nothing better to do, so I decided to clean it.
そろそろ復旧も終わりますから、皆さん休みずに戻っていただけます。夫妻子さんも、それで気分転換に遠出でもされたらいかがです？
Why not drive far away? Why wouldn't you just say go take a drive? Why make it specific like that. I actually wanted to return to Yasumizu, though. Oh my goodness. I don't think we've heard this track before. Huh. When I'd told Takumi-san that I'd take Meiko to the police once everything was settled and then return, he told me that I didn't have to. Rikako-san said she'd help him work the fields, and he'd accepted it. Kanzo-san fixed his rifle and began hunting again. Yasunagi-kun resumed going to school. Yoshitsugu-kun moved to the dorm and said he'd start going to school again too, joining his brother. Kinosuke-shi would, as planned, become a part-time doctor at the Kamafujiyoshi's clinic. When Kanzo-san returned from our shelter, Kinosuke-shi actually looked after him like a proper doctor, which was some impressive character development. Anyway, since it all seemed to be fine here, Takumi-san told me that I didn't have to return.
実のところはお前にはいくつもやってもらいたいことがあんだけど、お前よそに居場所あんだろ。だからこれっきり戻ってこなくてもまあ仕方ねえと思ってるよ。ただお前を待ってる女がいいんだからな。それと一緒に延々畑作ってんのもバカらしいぜ、俺はよ。
Alright.
すぐ帰ってきます。いろいろ片付けたらすぐに。
No, wait, maybe we have heard this track before actually. That part of the song sounded familiar. I did consider returning to the life I had, but I figured I should stay here and say, you know what I'm curious about? I mean, we know he has an ex-girlfriend back in Tokyo, but what about other family? Does he... Surely they would be concerned, or at least curious if... I mean, how many... It's been a few weeks at least, right? So, I mean, wouldn't they be curious or want to know where he is or how he's doing? I don't know.
まあ達者にな。はい、あんたの番。
She was hiding behind that tree. With her pale skin turning rosy, she meekly walked up to me.
メイコ、その達者に。
Hey, what about me?
お姉ちゃん、違うでしょ。ふさゆきさんでしょ。
Even she understood it. How precocious of her.
春明様、どうかお元気で。
I'd assume that the fact that she wasn't treating this like our final meeting was a step forward. But no, I wouldn't let it fly. I hadn't survived just to say goodbye to you.
そんな薄っぺらな言葉じゃ許せないな。
たまには遊びに来てください。
She sure was persistent.
そういうのを往生際が悪いって言うんですよ、リカ子さん。名前だって呼び合えるようになったんです。もう一歩素直になってくれたら、僕はとても嬉しくなって一つ大きな決断をできそうだ。
There were a lot of things I wanted to give to her and take from her. I was sure I'd find happiness if we made proper exchanges. After all, that was the sole light I'd ever seen in that dreadful mist. I wouldn't give up on it, no matter what.
春明様、
なんでしょ
寂しいですから。
Yes, you'd been lonely your whole life.
好きですから。
Yes, you weren't even allowed to love anyone.
五章ですから。
Yes, for the first time ever, you sought your own happiness.
戻ってきてください。
Oh, he's done it. I couldn't control myself.
うわ、見せつけやがる。
I let her go, and she looked at me with angry eyes. She'd become a lot more expressive, and I found it nothing if not lovable. I would live out the rest of my life with her. This journey brought me to something unexpected, and led to a really happy ending.
約束します。全部向こうのことは片付けて、今度こそここに戻ってきます。
はい。
その時は僕が大事なことを言う番だ。
はい。信じて待っております。
Okay, now, Haruaki, make sure we don't crash the bike this time. Let's not do that. Borrowing Higuchi's help, I got everything I needed, secured Meiko behind me with a children's belt, and left Fujiyoshi. Upon arriving at the closest city, I presented her as a lost child. They asked me questions, of course, and I omitted some things, but didn't lie at all. They thought I seemed shady, but I was able to prove my identity, and they let me off.
バイバイ、ふさゆきさん。
She waved, all smiles. She still couldn't get my name right. This reminded me that nothing that happened in Yasumizu had drawn the police's attention. I had no idea who'd done or didn't do to what... Pardon me. I had no idea who'd done or didn't do what to make it turn out like that, but I didn't care anymore. It was just the way it was. What was up with the looping business anyway? Was killing the wolves the condition for ending the loop? If that was the case, then it was caused by something that wanted the wolves to lose no matter what. No other explanation fit. Who would that be, though? Great Lord Shinai? That fit the story, but it often seemed like he didn't have a horse in this race. Also, if his only way to help the humans was to give out the guardians and send me, then he was a seriously bothersome god. Would I go back in time if I died now? I didn't even care to try. Not to mention that situations in which you could easily die were the abnormal ones. Also, I'd actually left the village this time. That made the current situation different than any so far. And it was best to assume that I wouldn't loop again. That was probably just the way it was. I stayed in that city for a while and contacted certain people, telling them that I would now be a farmer in a remote village. That got me in some serious trouble, but Yasumizu got no service anyway, so it wasn't like they could do anything about it. I'd cut ties with my previous life in 3 days, then entered a jeweler's store and bought the ring with the nicest design. It had a gem as red as her eyes, covered in gems as clear as her hair. It wasn't particularly expensive, but I felt it suited her better than any of the others. Then, just as I'd promised, I returned to Fujiyoshi. I went to the officer, talked to Higuchi-san, passed the mountain path, arrived at Yasumizu, and saw something I couldn't believe. Why? Why? Why was everyone dead? Why was Yasunaga Oribe dead? He'd survived after saying goodbye to his best friend and the girl that was like a sister to him, hadn't he? Why was Yoshitsugu Oribe dead? He'd made it through his mother's death, found common ground with his brother, and had his whole life ahead of him, didn't he? Why was Kanzo Makishima dead? He'd lost his granddaughter, protected Yasumizu, and was about to live out his twilight years in peace, wasn't he? Why was Takumi Muro dead? A likable guy had discarded his inner discord, believed in himself, and helped us to bring us to victory, hadn't he? Why were all their heads split open? It was supposed to be over. We'd ended it all. That was how it was supposed to be, right? I begged, hoped that someone was still alive. If no one was, what would have been a point of the sacrifices? Found one, a survivor. He was covered in blood, and held an axe covered in blood and gray matter. I then went on to murder him. After all, on one of the support beams in the hall I found him in was her body, hanging helplessly. What the hell? What was all this? Why had I thought that I had it all in the bag? Everything was dead. Everything was lost. And I hadn't reached an end yet.
Shinai-san no omamori wa.
The outside was shrouded in mist.
日がちふましらみガラスよ雲
As though led by something.
ゆきりたてば宴の支度
I passed the empty plaza.
いついつ無事なもなれもて走る
Went down the barren hill.
あやしよみびとけがらえり
嬉しい。私に会いに来てくれた？
あやしよみびとなきにせん
逃げられると思うたか？落ちよ。落ちて、落ちて、また落ち直せ。
くくれやひとひにひとりきりたた
As I threw myself into Saranaga's mists.
ダメ。春秋様。
I felt like I could hear her voice. Rokako-san. I couldn't fulfill my promise. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't cry for me. I couldn't make you happy. I couldn't do anything to help you feel normal happiness. I couldn't dispel the darkness of Fujiyoshi. And I couldn't even get close to the core of the mysteries surrounding it. How? What could I have done here? I needed a new path. I had to find one that could lead me to the truth. Ooh. Well, I'd be... Oh, that's interesting. Huh. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't sort of anticipating something like that. Again, I was thinking there was another main route, but you know, it's one of those things in Looper stories or Groundhog Day stories, the you know, that sort of thing. You get to a moment where you think you've got it, you know, where you think you're safe, and then suddenly they take it from you. And so you know, prepare yourself for the next feast. Yeah, I guess I wasn't expecting it to go so... I wasn't expecting it to go so long after finishing the feast. Lei Jing Lu Bu, Paradisiacal Babylon? Well, Lei Jing Lu Bu, is that Chinese? Or something else? And then I want to say paradisiacal. I'm not sure I know that word. Paradisiacal Babylon. Well, I know Babylon. Is paradisiacal as in like a paradise or something? Paradise Babylon? I don't know. Let's Google that. Is that a real word? Please tell me, internet. Adjective of a place or state, ideal. Of a place or state, ideal or idyllic, heavenly. Yeah, so like a paradise. Probably, maybe not pronouncing it correctly, but paradisiacal Babylon. Interesting. And of course, I don't know this. Just looking at it made me think it was Chinese, but I could be wrong. Lei Jing Lu Bu. Don't know. Do not pursue Lu Bu. That's all I know. Okay. Let's see. Is it going to tell me what that means? Raising loop. I beg your pardon. This should be quite the key, shouldn't it be? Let's see. Okay. By determining the wolves, I should say, this is raising loop. Key number 16. By determining the wolves and preventing their fatal rampage, the humans safely achieved victory. The mist cleared and the feast ended. All that was left was for me to propose to the woman who loved me. Or so I thought. Everything returned to ash. Yasumizu was engulfed in mist again, and it seemed I looped. The basic problem remains unsolved. I must solve all the mysteries. But how? Okay, so we've won the game, but we do not understand the phenomena that are occurring behind it. We don't know the reason why the loop is happening. We don't know how this feast is starting. We don't even really know what the feast is, really. We don't know Kama Fujiyoshi's involvement. We don't know Shinai-sama. We don't know what it is that makes the wolves the wolves. We don't know about the god that torments Haru and Chiemi. There's a lot we don't know. It looks like now we're going to have to find out. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. Huh. So this will probably start us back. Ending number 2. Do we want to watch Hint Corner? Hint Corner. Do we want to watch that? Yeah. Yeah. Let's do that. Talk to me, sheep.
よう大将、お疲れさんだぜ。
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
メインルート、基地はこれで終了。いやー、波乱万丈の末、狼全滅ですっきりしたな。やっぱ鬱すぎるか。だよな。でもしょうがねえだろ。宴に立っても謎はまだまだ残ってんだからよ。
I wonder which voice actor is behind the sheep. That Diona words he just said. Maybe it's Mochi, but the voice is, what is it? Pitched lower or something like that.
つうわけで、心機一転だ。次に備えて準備をしようぜ。
Fresh start, eh?
今回のバッドじゃないエンドに題してみんなで祝おうウェディングについてだが、これもまた至るべくして至った結末だ。胸を張ってくれ大将。さて今回手に入ったキー16でどこが開くのかというと、
You know, I'm curious. This is not the first time where Sheep has said, "Oh, this is another outcome you were bound to see." It's interesting that the Sheep is making that distinction. Does that mean there's going to come a time where there are going to be outcomes we don't necessarily have to see? Like, do you think there's going to be times where we have to make decisions and then those decisions will lead to separate endings? That's kind of the sense I'm getting from the way the Sheep is wording, because it's not the first time he said something like this.
ちょっと分かりづらい場所だな。4、潜入の9、住居を決めよだ。あれだよあれ。取材者の2人をどこに止めるかって相談してたところの鍵付き選択肢。
So we're probably going to get Yudai Hashimoto in the game. And I think we're actually going to finally get the thing I was thinking we were going to get at the beginning of this main route, which is we're going to have everyone in the game. That's kind of exciting.
あれで間宮久子と夫妻児春明が宴に参加し、展開が大きく変わったんだ。次もそれを狙うことになる。次の新ルート、暗黒では、ここまで時報風に死んでたカメラマンのおっさんがついに宴に登場。どうなるかな。もっとも、暗黒って名前からして、次のルートは不吉な予感プンプンだ。開けねえでくれよ、大将。
Oh, I already had an ominous feeling. The name is, it definitely adds to that, but yeah.
つうわけで、今回はここまで。次も元気に死んでこい。そういう夢だったってわけだ。次はもっとうまくやれ。羊が1匹、羊が2匹。
511. Well. What can I say, really? It definitely happened that there's another main route, and I was expecting that. But I did not expect... So there's a few things that are Okay, let's talk about this. I'm not going to be starting the next main route tonight, obviously. So let's talk about some of the weird things that occurred just now. Obviously, the Higuchi were up to, or Higuchi and the family heads were up to no good. They said they were preparing, or Yasumizu again, or doing something. Obviously, there's something there. There has to be. And the way Higuchi said, "Why don't you take a drive far away?" No, there's something there, obviously. But what's strange to me is that I thought it would be something like we'd finish the wolves, and yet the mist wouldn't leave, or something like that. The fact that the mist actually left, and Haruaki was speculating on this too. So the looping phenomenon is not gone just because the mist is gone. So that's a separate thing. He was thinking if it was maybe done by the Shinai sama somehow, but now that's obviously thrown out, I think. So something happened that caused Kiyo to go crazy, kill everyone with an axe, and yet Rokako was found hanging in the dining hall. That's very different. Did Rokako hang first, and then Kiyo found her like that and went crazy? But even if he found her like that I don't see finding Rokako then equaling kill everyone with an axe. So obviously something else is happening here. And then obviously Haruaki was just broken by not only finding everyone dead, but especially finding Rokako and then subsequently murdering Kiyo. He was broken at that point. And while he was walking away, he saw perhaps visions. There was a vision of Chiemi, and then we didn't see Rokako, but we heard Rikako's voice. So maybe just the two women he grew the closest to during his time here in Yasumizu. Chiemi definitely felt like a kind of flashback or a vision. But the voice of Rokako was actually telling him to stop, because he was going to commit suicide, jump into Saranaga. Maybe Kiyo found the pendant like Haruaki did, and then that caused him to go crazy or something. But yeah, definitely just that whole time as I was reading it that felt way too happy, It was just like I felt, it's going to go wrong or something at some point. But yeah. I mean, Haruaki has to recover from this somehow. I'm going to assume him restarting and then seeing everyone again. Well, we know he's already desensitized, right? I guess it's just the fact that finally, seemingly ending it, finally, kind of restored his spirit again. And then that was just... What is it? It's hard enough to repair something one time, but then it's much easier to shatter the second time. Something like that. I don't know. Yeah, that was tough. That was tough. That dang look on Higuchi is just... It makes me angry every time I see his face. Okay. We will call it there, I think. Next time, we will begin Darkness, I believe, is what he called it. I'll obviously try to think about this in the meantime. Raising Loop. Okay, I've been the Worm. This has been Raging Loop, and I hope to see you next time for what might be the the beginning of the last third of the game, I think, because that definitely, this last main route has the kind of feel of a final route. So I hope you're all excited for that. I don't know about excited, anticipating that. In any case, hope to see you then. Have a good one.